Welcome back to another episode of Tyler's Yarns. We got a cool guest from Melbourne. Do you want to introduce yourself, Simo?
Yeah, man. Name's Simon. Got my own brand, MilkBar. Do some of the garments here.
Yeah.
Just
Repping the garments on the potty.
of course.
That's got him, man.
That's the best part. Like, I woke up this morning, I was like thinking about how fucking good is it. I just woke up and put my own trackies on.
Yeah, so good.
And you know, I design so I want to wear it. Like, I design exactly what I want pretty much. So there's no reason for me not to just have like. I'm at a good point now because I've had maybe a year and a half of drops and, you know, or maybe 2 years now. And maybe a year and a half. And like, so now I have like a full wardrobe basically of everything I want to wear that I've made. So, you know, at the start you're like, oh, well, I have this piece, but maybe I want to wear this today. But now I have like all different colors that I can go through. So,
especially the colours you're doing at the moment. You're doing a lot of those like earth tones and stuff like that, which are fucking vibey.
Yeah, I was kind of, you know, I love the earth tones, but it took me a while to get around to them just because they were being overdone and I wanted to find my own way in.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can I think of all the Australian colour names, shit like that.
Make up some random colours, you know?
Yeah, like wog brick brown and like,
so good.
I was thinking like, what's khaki in Australia? Because a big part of my brand is trying to be grateful for like Australian culture and embrace what we have around us instead of always, you know, America's always a massive inspiration, or Japan and, you know, European culture is always a massive inspiration for anyone. But, you know, it's good to have that inspiration, but I'm like, all right, what can we take from our own community? Like when you wake up and you walk down the street, what do you see and how does that influence you?
Yeah, especially in Melbourne as well. Like the style here is probably the best in Australia.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
in my opinion.
Yeah, we're in the hub. We're in the hub
of fashion, which is like good. And I think we're like following along most of the European countries and like Japan, which is like we're in the right direction. But I think we've also got our own style as well, which you were talking about.
Yeah. And, you know, it's that, like, we're in the hub of it, but I think the dopest part about fashion, or the parts I connect with, is when, you know, you go a little bit out into the country and, you know, maybe you see like a farmer in some fucked up jeans and a shitty flannel, and he's like driving an old Land Cruiser, but he doesn't realize that's dope.
Yeah. So
he just got that Land Cruiser to drive on the farm like 20 years ago.
The 90s Land Cruiser, man, that's my dream car.
Exactly.
Tell anyone another dream car?
Oh yeah,
bro. But I see people drive past the store and like the Land Rovers, like the 90s ones, and I'm like, man, the things I'd do for that car, man.
Exactly, man. Like, that's what I mean. So, you know, Melbourne is the cultural hub, but even like, you know, the Eshays in Sydney, you know, like, you know, maybe you don't want to dress exactly like that, but you take parts from that. All right, I'm going to appropriate TNs and like, you know, that's something that the drug dealers are wearing there, but like it's been totally appropriated here, and you see like hippies wearing TNs, you know what I mean?
That's crazy. Yeah, I've never really thought about that actually. Like,
I remember
pretty much I'm wearing TNs right now, so it's like crazy.
So it's found its way into our community, like
from lads, pretty much.
Yeah, like I remember when I was 16, even just like wearing Nautica, like people would be like, "Oh, don't wear Nautica, you get belted."
Yeah.
Like if you go here wearing Nautica, like if you bought Nautica, people would be like, "All right, wear it, but don't go here. Don't go here wearing it," or don't wear TNs and go here. And it was probably because we were younger. We were just a little bit more scared of places.
Yeah.
But and then slowly it was like you were just allowed to wear Nautica suddenly, and it got appropriated.
Even like Nautica in our shops, like a massive seller now. So like that shows from where the times from then to sort of now as well.
I can't think of many other things where it's been like, oh no, you can't wear that because it's too tough. That's something like really, I guess, like very part of the Australian clothing scene. I don't know. I know in like America there was a lot of like crime with Jordans and people getting killed over Jordans.
Even Starter as well. Like,
really?
That's literally how Starter stopped. Because people were stealing each other's starter jackets, like robbing each other, robbing each other's hats, and then they lost all their massive licensing from all those big like major sporting bodies.
It's horrible. Yeah, those stories are horrible because like in America, like blokes getting shot and shit. But here it's almost like still alright to joke about because like like kids just losing their TNs and no one got hurt.
Yeah, and it's just it's got staunch at a station,
Exactly. Yeah. It's an interesting part of our culture. That's the thing. So it is like things get appropriated and there is like a style in Melbourne and then it's like there's like people that aren't even thinking about their own style out in the country or essays in Sydney and they don't even realise that it's like, oh no, that's actually interesting and we can take from that and we can...
I think Melbourne has taken a lot from like each of all the stuff that you're sort of been talking about as well, which is cool. And like probably a lot of inspiration behind your brand as well. Yeah, pretty much like maybe... Do you want to get into like how you sort of started because you started a completely different route to a normal brand?
Man. I'm just
because I've known you for 2019.
Wild, huh?
Crazy.
And it's gone quick, but it's gone slow.
Yeah.
I think that's everyone's kind of feeling on the COVID years. It's like
pretty much. It's like you missed a whole 2 years, especially in Melbourne because we're in lockdown the whole time as well.
Yeah, but you've definitely made the most of it.
Yeah.
Like I was just
especially just hustling through lockdown, and you would have been doing the same as well.
Well, I was thinking, definitely. I was thinking on the way over here, like, when me and Dill came to film at the shop in 2019, and you didn't like love being on the camera that much back then.
Nah.
And then I
was like, I think that was the first time I've ever been on the camera. When you film me, and I was like fucking like jittering and shit.
I think it was, and credit to you. And people that don't know you won't give you credit for this because they just see this bloke on TikTok and he's smashing it. But to see you go from someone that's like totally uncomfortable on camera and then you're like, oh no, fuck this, I'm gonna like... You were like one of the first people to take on the TikTok shit and fully embrace it and not just like half-ass it. Like you were like, this is like business, we're doing this daily. You probably do more than once a day.
Pretty much now it's like 3 posts a day. But at the start, when TikTok was even a thing,
Compared to when you like couldn't talk on camera, like So people that don't know you won't give you credit for that, but I wanted to come on and
thanks,
let the people know because
appreciate it.
Not many people like are willing to adapt like that. And mate, the TikTok's just this small part of like the podcasting. Like, you've branched out so much.
Yeah, pretty much from then it was like the YouTube, the podcast,
and back then I thought like you were the benchmark of the vintage scene. But what do you do? Are you just like motivated by people abroad, like in terms of where you go? Because there's like no one doing it like you're doing it here
in Australia. Yeah. No, I pretty much get like, I think we were talking about it before we jumped on the potty as well, if you want to get into that. But the way I see it, I want to be like a round 2, but like also have like a lot of media under it where round 2 sort of don't. I want to have like these podcasts and YouTubes and I want to build a community through that. But I see myself like up here, but like if you reach for the stars and you fall short, you're still pretty high up,
100%. Yeah, we're all dreamers in the game. Yeah, you kind of just, like I have big dreams myself of like keeping, obviously I already have manufacturing here in Melbourne, but want to keep it here, want to provide opportunity to help other brands have it here. Whether that means, having my own community of sewers and manufacturing or, starting a factory down the line.
So do you want to get into that a bit more? Because pretty much all your stuff that you're wearing one of the jackets now. You've been making hoodies, you've got trackies as well. Yeah, crew necks and drop as well. When I first saw, so you made a transition. Do you want to just go through your transition of how you, bro. Before we jump into all the...
Yeah, so similar to you, I guess, just I'm so willing to adapt all the time. Like people, not even just in business, but, people that have known me for maybe 10 years or so, like people that really know me just know that if I am not happy with actions,
what you're doing,
what I'm doing, just
I think that's what I felt like when I first met you. You're like, this is what we're doing. Like, I got that vibe off you when we first met.
Yeah, like I can get really obsessive about, and it's not even just business. It's like, maybe I don't like how I'm dieting and I'll lose like, right now I'm like 17, 18 kilos down from what I was last year. Yeah. or like I don't like the way I'm treating people, so I'll be obsessive on
Of
the
how
way
you-
of like being a nicer person,
Yeah.
like for a year, and then I'll like be like, oh, now I'm like being too nice, I'm getting taken advantage of.
Yeah.
I need to be a bit more, presentable, a bit more like, be able to like talk my way through situations. So I'm just like, I'm always adapting. So kind of the scheme at the start when I was 17, had this good mate that we kind of just got close in year 11, Dylan.
Yeah.
He's doing all that awesome shit with Garden State Journal.
Yeah.
And
So you used to be business partners. So when you first started MilkBar,
pretty much, what kind of business do you have when you're 17?
Yeah.
Some credit to some of these 17-year-olds now, like
They're on the
they're
some,
doing legit
yeah.
shit, but I was a bit of a rat bag at 17, like,
As we all.
yeah,
all were.
like one foot in one world, one foot in the
Yeah.
other, and
You either got to do all or nothing, like you're talking about before. You either got to do something or you got to not do it.
And that was me kind of like twinkling my toes in the water a little bit then. But yeah, we started off in kind of videography. Dylan wasn't that into fashion back then, but he, I'll tell the story on how we kind of met. Like Dylan was like, we always went to high school together, and we just never really spoke. Like sit on different sides of the room, just different friend groups or whatever. And one day we're in IT, and we're in like not in IT, sorry, media. So we both had this like interest in movies and editing, and I was good at videography. He was a little bit better probably, and he were like stayed behind in the editing hub, probably at lunch or something. We had to do some extra editing to get something done, and it was just us two in there, and we started talking, and he was like, oh yeah, I've been working on this script for this movie, like I've been working this job 2 years or like a year or something, haven't touched the money so I could save up for this camera. And I was like, wow, this kid like thinks like me. He's thinking about, just getting it done. Anyway, so we kept talking, and then after that, we're kind of inseparable. Like, just we didn't realize we had so many classes together because we were just like in different worlds, me and Dill. But we're like, oh, you're actually in this class with me. Oh, you actually, and so we just started sitting with each other, and then, mate, just no learning, just all talking, just all philosophizing, like all planning out stuff, and from there, I was kind of like, all right, you're good with, you want to use this camera, like you've paid a lot of money for it, let's use it. I want to get into fashion. What's our way in? What's our in? So like for our year 11 media project, I was like, let's do a doco on Ishpig, because I knew they were like a local brand. I hear they're like happy to answer DMs and stuff. So I was like, I'll reach out and see that. And it's funny, all this stuff, we're just talking about this Instagram account, Melbourne Calling. I don't even know where I got the info from. Like Dylan might have said, all this stuff's come out about like how the brand started. But
yeah, pretty much. Like if anyone doesn't know, there was a story that came out last night that some random person just did a little story about him, which was pretty cool, which doesn't really happen too often.
Yeah, but
it's real buzzy stuff, which is like good for your brand.
Yeah,
people
that's
watching.
I guess it just shows how the community is growing in Melbourne.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Going back to
Ishpig, yeah, I was like, all right, two birds with one stone, like a media project, making connections and learning from probably one of the best people in the community, if not the best in the streetwear community, talking about like being made here for 10 years,
Yeah, being made in Melbourne. Eh?
Yeah, being made in Melbourne.
And he's got a lot of knowledge about pretty much manufacturing and stuff like that, man. Like
They're
crazy.
hustlers, man.
Bro, it's crazy even listening to him sometimes. That's what we got our inspiration off of, like starting the Made brand as well,
Exactly.
Just because it's like, you look at the fast fashion, you look at...
Same with me, man. Similar to that is, you take all parts of different brands, and the part I've taken from Ishpig was that Melbourne Made thing. It's like... Yeah. Maybe that idea wouldn't have even been in my head if they didn't do it.
For sure.
Because that's kind of how I ended up starting the sewing. We'll get back to that later, though, because that's down the line. Anyway, how I met Tyler was we had that, and then Dylan's cousin is Ash from Spell Out Vintage. Yeah. And I was actually really into vintage. I was actually like selling a little vintage on Depop back then, like thinking that.
Yeah, I think we're talking about that actually.
Yeah, thinking that would be my main hustle. But you know, started with that, and then Dill was like, "Oh, my cousin actually does it." Weird coincidence, because like Dill just didn't give a fuck about fashion back then, and he was like, "Oh no, my cousin actually does this. Let's film for him." Ash offered, like, probably one of the biggest helps we ever had. He offered like, "Oh yeah, we can get you to film at 91 Vintage."
Yeah, especially that's when it was like pumping, like the big ones.
And that's it's kind of what we were talking about before. Like, it's crazy to see where everyone's gone from those markets, because, you know, we have all the vintage sellers continue doing what they're doing. You've like continued to adapt to like all the new media and stuff, and just continue to build. And then like the push pull boys, and like some of those boys are at Up There now, and Up There's like this whole community world we were just talking about before, how like it's so weird how everyone in streetwear's actually like really fit and gets their exercise in. I think a big part of that's Up There Athletics.
Yeah, Up There Athletics, man.
Yeah, and just because the work they've done over there, because, you know, they're like, oh, you can like sport and fashion, and, you know, probably in the past, the person that you pull up to a park and blokes are playing like pickup basketball, the bloke that looks the best and has the most gear on, has the armbands, probably going to be the worst at basketball. But yeah, it's just this interesting take on like, oh no, you can be fresh while you're running. Yeah. It just made me think like, oh, when I go to the gym, I don't have to wear my like shit clothes. Like, why don't I put like a nice outfit? And it makes the whole experience more enjoyable to like people like us that care about what we wear.
You see a lot of big brands is now, like all big brands perhaps have like, they're under their brand as like run clubs and stuff, which is like
a poor version of what Up There Athletics do.
Yeah. Like there's like a lot of other brands where it's like, oh
yeah,
run clubs, but like that's what I mean. It's in the industry of like in our community anyway. It's like and fitness and health.
Best.
Yeah, they do it the best.
Sure. And then like the push pull boys, you know, they're doing their own thing. Like probably, you know, all these other smaller brands that are coming up are definitely massive influence by push pull
for sure. Even a lot of people that we talked to on this podcast as well.
100%.
Which we're going to be getting push pull on soon, which is going to be cool.
Yeah, those blokes are amazing.
Be interesting to.
And no one has a bad thing to say about it. Like they've always reached out to people, including myself, and just, you know, it's same way I feel about Ishbig. Like, I take that thing from that brand, and like the fact push pull. What I take away from them is just the success, really. Yeah. Like, I might not take away the cut or the fit or the design or the manufacturing, but I take away like from any brand, but like I take away like, oh no, they really did that shit. And it was kind of just like, it was just like an explosion. There's no other way to explain it. They just showed you, oh, you can do this here.
In Melbourne.
Exactly.
Because obviously I saw the growth from the start, because I've been friends with all the first owners for a long time, and then now same. It's like obviously changed owners a lot, but so you pretty much like moved from doing videos, you did a documentary about Itchpig, and then you did a documentary about 91 Vintage, and then sort of what happened after that?
Yeah, so after that, it was like just I was into film and into that old grainy look. But, you know, like I did the disposable cameras and they were sick, but, you know, they were just like, you know, it was a little bit different, and my thing was always just end goal was like the clothes. Yeah, you wanted to be in fashion and that sort of thing. Yeah, so, and it was like, disposable cameras were sick and people love them. Some people still ask me to continue to do them, but I don't know. It's like, obviously the thing about cameras is like, they're not going to be manufactured here. No. So when like, and it's funny because like this is what most brands actually do, but just felt weird like getting something from overseas. Like I'd put my designed cover on it and sell it. I don't know, it just didn't sit with me well. Yeah. You know, just not the direction you sort of want to go. Yeah, I'd love to say like the local manufacturing shit is like the vibe. Oh no, well it is, but like I'd love to say that, you know, I'm a great person, and it really, I can't sleep at night knowing kids in Asia are sewing Nike shoes, but we're all part of it. We're all hypocrites. Like, we own Nike shoes. We own stuff that's, I'm sure there's furniture in your house that was made somewhere and like people aren't getting paid, probably getting like 50 cents an hour. We're all part of it. So it's like, you know, I do it off principle because I know it's right. But at the end of the day, like, none of us care, you know.
I'm a definitely big believer.
Yeah,
and,
I'm 100% a big believer.
Like, I'm like an advocate for fast fashion, so
yeah,
you know what I mean. It's just like, yeah, like the way you're doing it now, like all Melbourne made.
Yeah,
that's making jobs for Australians.
100%.
It's like, yeah, it's just a roll-on effect with everything you do. You screen print it here, you embroider here, like you're cut and sewing it here. It's just like the people who benefit are all of us, like Australian as a whole.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm a massive believer in.
Same, man.
And also like mass producing of products as well. I doesn't sit well with. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you know, we're all guilty of buying into that culture at some point, but
yeah, for sure.
You know, I was like, you know, if I'm going to start a brand, I don't want to be a part of that problem.
For sure.
And at the end of the day, you know, I probably could go on with it, made more money, would have gotten over it, but I don't know. I try to be principle based.
That's what I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, I try to be principle based and be like, you know, well, is this really you gotta set your line in the sand and say like, no, we're gonna keep it here.
But it also has to align with your values as well.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's the big part because like going to the name of the brand, MilkBar.
Yeah, I was gonna get into that. Well, why is it called MilkBar?
Well, it's like a double meaning, right? Because you know, it's holding on to this stronger Australian culture that we probably had in the 80s and that we've lost.
True.
Because like it's holding on to that, and like a milk bar, what are milk bars to us and what were the milk bars in the 80s? Milk bars were where you got your stuff, right? You got your milk, you got your bread, probably got the paper. Now the milk bar is the thing on the corner that isn't like, it's basically like a museum.
Yeah.
You know, people don't go there for stuff. If you're lucky enough to have that milk bar still in service, like
there's not too many around anymore unless you're in a country town.
It's probably just on the corner there with the Herald Sun sign and like a broken window on the corner, and like it's been abandoned, or like the thing that's dope is like a lot of cafes are kind of up
doing it.
Yeah, doing them, which I fuck with that. But yeah, it's like this old Australia, but at the same time, you know, I'm trying to hold on to a piece of that. Obviously, like a lot of my colorways will be, like we said at the start, my colorways will be inspired by Australian things, and you know, the footy collection. That's like something I'm really proud of. Was, you know, everyone's doing this, like everyone always does like basketball streetwear. Like basketball is such a big part of, you know, the culture. Yeah, the culture in general, and hip hop and basketball are related, and hip hop basically runs culture. Hip hop basically started streetwear. So, you know, there's always been that take on basketball, and people want to continue that. And like you're saying, every brand has like an athleisure side to it, and it's done really poorly. And I was like, you know, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're on the other side of the world. We live in a city where we have our own sport, and, you know, footy, like, we have like some of the biggest stadiums in the world, and then you're just going to be like, oh no, like, I think it's just people haven't seen it being done.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That was like a big motivation for me to do it. Was like, oh no, footy can be just as dope as basketball. Like,
for the footy collection you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm talking about the footy collection I did earlier in the year. Like, why can't we see AFL as tasteful?
Yeah.
You know,
but it is getting more tasteful though.
Oh, 100%.
But it's not tasteful at the moment.
Traditionally, like, you know,
it's more sort of grungy.
Yeah, it's not thought of like as that, like AFL. Yeah, and that's why I did the collection, because I wanted like a more tasteful perspective on it that people weren't giving it credit for. Yeah, you know what I mean. You know, and it just takes someone to like we were saying before with like Eshe culture and appropriating like TNs or something. It's just like takes someone to go. You know, I've told this story about like Ralph Lauren before. He would like go to Europe and they'd be wearing some old sweater that, you know, their like grandfather had passed down to them, and they wouldn't think twice about it. It was just like probably something that it's had and they didn't care about. And he'd go, oh no, that's cool. Yeah, that's inspiration. And he'd bring it back to America and go, we're going to make this. And everyone, and then the people in Europe was like, oh, that's amazing. It's like, well, you probably had that in the back of your cupboard and your old man gave it to you, but you never looked at it. Yeah. Same thing as that. It's like AFL's dope. It's just we haven't been told that it's as good as the NBA.
Yeah, but it is the draws more crowd, more money, more everything.
So you know,
AFL is one of the biggest sports in like even in Australia.
Yeah,
it's like one of the biggest. It brings the biggest crowd in the world.
Exactly.
Like there's no other sport that brings 90,000 people in a final. You'll see in the next few weeks there'll be like 90,000 every single final.
There's nothing better, man. These Collingwood Carlton games.
Yeah,
like,
on this Sunday is it's gonna be full.
Someone's gonna get stabbed.
Yeah, literally. They're always too big, you know.
Yeah, and like imagine if the NBA was just New York. Like we have the interstate teams, right? But basically, it's built off Melbourne. It's built off our city. Imagine if the NBA was just New York and Bronx had a team, and then like Manhattan had a team, and then like Brooklyn had a team.
Soho or Lower East Side
and they all just versed each other.
Yeah,
like everyone would go, "Wow, that'd be fucking sick."
Yeah,
that's what we have here. But these blokes are like hitting each other, running like at high speeds and like jumping on
accuracy.
Backs.
It's like a whole different, fast-moving game.
Yeah,
that's why it's so good, though.
It's amazing, and I feel like, including myself, I played basketball growing up, but the reason we've all like gone down that lane is just because the marketing in America is amazing.
Yeah,
like credit to them, and the style, the hip hop. We all got into like the hip hop and that whole culture, and then we got funneled into basketball, and we thought that was dope. And NBA is dope, man. But
I think that's the way we're sort of AFL's going as well. And then you're talking about the culture before, and it's like it's only going to increase the AFL culture from here, I reckon.
Oh, it's on the way up.
It's on the way up. You can see it. It's like it's going to be like an NBA for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like the footy collection is something I want to do yearly.
Yeah,
like that's
a dope little thing, I reckon.
I want to own. Like when people think of like footy,
and especially because you've started it now, and then it's like we're talking about it. It's going to be like it's going to be crazy in a few years, and you're already doing it, and you've been like, I've done this collection for 8 years. It's like
I'd love to be able to say that, man.
Yeah,
and,
that's what I mean.
The scary thing is like someone could rip the idea and do it a lot,
but a lot of people do that. Like it happens daily, man.
Exactly,
But that's flattery, man, in the best form.
Exactly, but I trust myself that I'm still gonna make the best shit, and all you can do is
it's
hope
just how creative you are, as well with it all.
I'm very confident that I'll hold on to it and be able to do it the best.
So another thing I wanted to get into, so you pretty much did all the movie, you're getting into clothes by then, and what happened with your business partner Dylan at the time?
So Dill, I wish I had like a really like ugly breakup story.
Yeah, they know that. Get the views. The clickbait would have been good on this one.
Yeah, fuck Dill, bro. Yeah, fuck that. No, I think I'm trying to think of like what it actually was that made him go his own way. I think it was just the fact that I think I am like a really big personality, and even without me realizing subconsciously, I'm probably like steering the ship a lot. Yeah. And
well, you're a leader then,
I feel like I have a lot of leader qualities. Like even playing footy, any of the boys will remember. Like I'm the cunt in like the middle of the huddle, like Gene everyone up, kind of thing, ready to go into war.
So you're pretty much like a natural born leader, which is like.
I think so, man. Yeah. Time will tell as I expand the business.
For sure. Because then that's when you start like managing people as well. And you said you wanted to get into like your own cutting, so like it's going to be a whole operation.
Exactly. So
pretty much not an ugly breakup then? No,
not at all. And I totally supported him, and the stuff he's doing now is amazing. Crazy. I'd argue that Dill is like the most powerful representation of Melbourne right now. Man. What he's doing with Garden State Journal.
Yeah, so if you guys want to give it a follow on Instagram,
and I'd say the TikTok.
Yeah. And TikTok, man, he's doing some crazy stuff.
Because he does do the TikTok videos, but the effort he's putting into the magazine as well, like
insane. I watch the videos every day, and I'm like, man, such good videos, man.
And that's another like extension of what I'm talking about. It's like you probably walk down those streets he shoots every day and not give a fuck. Yeah,
and it makes it look different. And then he's like taking videos of like steezy ass cunts and like walking across the street, and you're like, man, this is like Melbourne. Yeah, it makes you feel like it's Melbourne.
Exactly. And you can own that. It's like, I live there. Yeah. He's not just going to like he started on Sydney Road, and we love Sydney Road. That's where we hang out, like in Brunswick, but he'll go to Footscray. Like he's getting around. Like he wants to make
someone feel like
when you wake up and you
know?
go around the corner to get your coffee, doesn't matter where you are, you should feel that dope. It's like, how many cunts have just gone to New York because they want to grab a coffee, smoke a dart, and cross the street? 100%. That's a massive part of their branding in New York. But it's like, no, you can just do that here, save like a couple grand.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what I mean.
But it actually is like, people think like that. It's like, oh, I love the feeling of being in New York.
Or
I'd love to go to Europe and just walk down the street and soak it up. It's like, dope, weird. You can do that. And
you're living in the best fucking place in the world. Most livable city, man.
Let's be grateful for what we have here. And let's add to like our quality of life of just how do we perceive.
Being grateful for where we are right now as well.
That's how I'd sum up my brand.
Yeah.
It's just like
being grateful.
What do we have here?
Yeah. What's good?
Not only thematically with the drops and the collections and the colorway naming, but like, all right, what do I have here in manufacturing? What fabrics can I source here?
Yeah.
What are, the dye places I have here? What are the limitations? Let me work in those limitations. That's fine. I'll work it out because I'm creative.
Yeah. And you got to, especially here, there's only a certain amount of manufacturers left and like stuff, which is super sad. But like people like you are going to be bringing the manufacturing up.
I hope so. But it is sad because it's like, there's a couple people I'm working with that I don't even know if they'll be here by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Like losing their business just because, I wish I was already in a bigger spot so I could help them out. But I don't know. There's nothing. There's not much I can say. It is sad, man. Sad. It is sad. Like, luckily these are like people like in their end of their careers. So
they're a bit older. They've been doing it like you're saying your name MilkBar. They've been doing it since the 80s, 90s, and
exactly.
Their businesses are 40 years old already. But
to touch on that, like. That's kind of what this latest collection's about, like heavy garment supply.
Which you're wearing now?
Yeah, it's called Heavy Garment Supply Melbourne. And, the idea was, when I do like Heavy Garment Supply Melbourne, there wasn't any like MilkBar branding on it or like on this or like even on like the ads, there wasn't MilkBar branding or anything because I thought like, all right, in this world of like the 80s when like my nonna coming over from Italy, she worked in a factory in Brunswick making woolen knits, and my nonna barely speaks English.
Yeah.
Like, she would go to the factory every day and just speak to all the other Italian ladies, That's the kind of community that was being built in those factories in Brunswick. Same with like Greek immigrants, even like the bosses of the places were like, I think like the one my nonna worked at was like two Greek or two Italian blokes. So they would have this community they could go to. Imagine that, moving to a foreign country and you don't even have to learn the language because your job is so like basically represents where you came from at that scale.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Literally gives you like goosebumps. So it makes you feel fucking like proud.
Yeah, man. And so the whole idea is that this collection exists in that world of you could literally imagine that, all the advertisement was shot in Brunswick. Like, the idea is that these were like pumped out in Brunswick, in those factory in Brunswick in the 80s. And there's like, the truth is, because I love the meaning behind my brand name and story, everything. But like, the truth is in the 80s, they're going to be selling like well-made garments with a cute name like MilkBar, like. So I thought like Heavy Garment Supply is like
perfect,
like an 80s name, like very tough and
very Australian, like very just like
exactly. So it still fits within the brand because where I want to see it going is like MilkBar is like the top level of the brand, and then below that is like Heavy Garment Supply, Summer Supply. I want to like do the footy collection, so it's not like when you see like a brand do like, the athleisure and it's like MilkBar Run Club. Well, I don't want to do MilkBar Run Club.
Or just like,
or like, I want to do like Princess Park Run Club.
Yeah. That's
so like,
cool.
it's like,
that's a vibe.
It's almost like it's actually a real
community
in just that drop. Not just MilkBar as a community, but like, or like, I run down at the beach, we've both been doing marathon prep. I'll run down at the beach and do a dip at the end and I see like, all the life-saving clubs. It's like, well, I don't want to do MilkBar Life-Saving Club. I want to do Port Melbourne Life-Saving Club. And then it's that's like, cool. If that already exists, I want to like make merch for them.
Yeah.
instead of like making this like fake world of like, you know, MilkBar.
Well, what you're actually doing is like building a proper community. You know,
Exactly.
that's the main word of community.
Instead of like a few T-shirts, and then the people that have those T-shirts probably never meet each other, or like maybe you're lucky if you see the bloke like wearing the T-shirt while you're walking down the street one day.
Yeah,
probably don't even go say hi to him, like because we're all too awkward.
But what I feel like with that is like in Melbourne, especially people in Brunswick love Brunswick. People on Chapel Street love Chapel Street.
And that's dope.
That's what I mean. But like you make garments like that, and then people that are wearing your Chapel Street garment, like say I'd wear your Chapel Street garment, and you're like, you see another person out, and it's just like
exactly, man.
I reckon that's the way.
Because the way I think, and this is coming back to like Dylan going his own way, like the way I think is it's not about MilkBar, it's about what's best for the city.
Yeah, what's best for Melbourne.
Yeah, so like, you know, Dylan's like an amazing director.
Yeah.
But I don't, you know, I'm not trying to keep him for myself. I try my, we all have greedy tendencies, but I try not to be greedy. I was like, no, like you have to like, and it's so obvious. It's like you have to flourish and you have to do your thing. Not that I'm gatekeeping. It's like he's worked so hard to get where he's at, and he's so deserving of everything. Like, you know, and that's what's best for Melbourne. Like, if, you know, maybe someone else would like be like, no, like you have to stay with my brand and do all the marketing for my brand. But it's like, nah. He's gonna do so much more for the city on his own. And it's so like I don't even have to think about that. I'm like, obviously, like, go do your own thing. I want you to be the best, you know, and that's what mates do. But I'm sure there's like a lot of cunts that
would be like, great.
Not giving myself credit at all, because I think that's just like the lowest level of common courtesy.
100%, especially if he's your mate. He's like,
but you know, it's shocking to see some like businesses break up pretty ugly. I don't know. I feel like if you have those people around you, wouldn't you want the best for them?
Yeah, that's what I mean. But that's what everyone that comes there and works for me. It's like if they go do something else, they go onto another podcast or do something else, I'd be grateful for them. Like, you know, that's what they came into my job to do, to grow.
Exactly, man. Yeah, no, that's how communities get built. Like you think about New York, like how many blokes went through Supreme, and the guy that started Supreme was working at Stussy. Yeah, like
at the start of it, and then
I'd love.
And they've got a small team of about 15 people only.
Yeah, I fuck with that.
Yeah, those small teams are better teams.
And
I don't think I'd get more than 10 or 15 people in my team.
Though. You
can do 7 now.
You can do a lot with like 10 people.
With 10 people, like if people were wearing like
take over a country.
Yeah, literally, you can take over a country.
Like that's what I mean, man. And I'd love to like even not collab in like the stupid streetwear way of just like you put 2 logos together or something and drop a hoodie, but like I love like to do collaboration in the way of maybe more the way music's made. Like, you know, Kanye will make Dark Twisted Fantasy, get like 50 of the best rappers in the studio over the course of 2 months, and he like it doesn't mean, you know, maybe I'll drop a whole collection and one of the pieces is a collaboration with a push-pull, because I think that push-pull does community really well, and I want one of the pieces to touch community. Yeah, or,
like you're talking about before, you're breaking down, you're like, oh, Melbourne made, it's pig, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, I have this idea of like, you know, I'm not going to give away ideas, but, you know, doing like a certain piece with an Ishpig or with an Estelle House or like with all these brands, you know, instead of, you know, just dropping these weak collabs, like how can we change the collab game as well? Yeah, you know? How can we like, you know, I'll just drop the idea because I know even if someone copies it, like I'll do it better. But it's like, great thing about Ishpig was like they were a massive part of like the urbex scene. Yeah. So it's like if I'm gonna not that they do it with me or anything, or because I'm way smaller than their brand, but like if I was to do it with Ishpig, I'd be like, all right, how can we make an urbex jacket? True. Not how can I do MilkBar and a Ish Big logo
on a thing.
How do I fit it in like on a t-shirt? And like,
whereas like also what's like the marketing behind it as well? Like how are we going to portray a story? And
of course.
Like how is this a proper collaboration rather than
exactly, man.
just like, you know, just putting a logo on a hoodie.
Yeah, man. Like but
I think that's the way collaborations are going in the future anyways, just because
they have to, because it's like the collab, a lot of the collabs that are being done at the moment is like very fast fashion.
For sure. It's just like, let's pump it out.
Yeah, what's it mean? And even just like, I wouldn't even collab yet. Just people ask me to collab, and I'm like,
you're not enough.
Like people don't even know what my brand is yet. Like, you know, it's
even this conversation. It's like now I know who you are. I know your brand, and exactly. I know like
you can only tell so much a year in or so.
Yeah, but you're still establishing it yourself. I'm 6 years in, and I know our brand values, and I know that took me 6 years. Like
100%.
Like what do you stand for at Official Vintage? What do you stand for at MilkBar? You know what I mean? It's just like you figure that out.
On top of that, how do you mix two flavors together if neither of you know who you are yet? And not only you don't know who you are,
it's just like getting into a bad relationship.
But the community's like, great example. But like the audience don't even know. If you don't know who you are, no chance. Like you could know who you are, and it still hasn't been communicated to the public.
That's what I mean.
So like, a lot of these brands, we're so far off being ready to collab.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like the younger brands, there are brands that are established out there that definitely like I reckon could collab.
Yeah, for sure. So pretty much just to wrap it up, you pretty much have started making clothes. You've done a whole bunch of hoodies, tees, sweaters, and do you want to talk about your next drop and then we'll wrap it up?
Like this one.
The one you're about to do. Yeah.
This one's out, so I'm.
Was it on pre-order? Yeah, it was pre-order.
It is pre-order. Yeah, so maybe by the time this podcast's out, I would have closed orders. But I don't know. To break it down, probably they're all just basics. You know, like I said, I try and make stuff that I want to wear.
Yeah. Oh, now you can wear in all your cupboard. You know.
Exactly, man. Like I don't want stuff with graphics or fonts that are going to go out of date. There are graphics that are timeless.
There are graphics. There's fonts that are timeless. Yeah,
that's what I'm
talking about.
There are fonts that are timeless,
but there's also graphics that are trending. There's only a trend,
and I have no interest in making that shit, man. Like,
but you're pretty much making a lifelong garment.
Exactly, and that's what I want to offer. Like, I can't get around my products and my garments being a little bit more expensive being made here.
Yeah,
that's just like. That's how it is. Like you've looked into all that stuff, and
it's a lot more money. Like than getting it
2,
produced,
3, 4 times. Like stupid amount, way more expensive than getting it made abroad.
Yeah.
But that's something I believe in. I'm not going to change it. So if the product is priced at that level, do I sell someone a graphic tee that they can't wear next year?
That's what I mean.
That's on me as a designer to be like, nah, fuck that. Like, and people ask me for like. College hoodies are pretty timeless, right?
Yeah, but college hoodies.
And I kind of put an incentive in this drop. I was like, all right, if we get like 200 shares, I'll bring them back. And like people
did you do 200 shares?
People did way more than 200 shares. So
that means it's popular.
People really want it, and like,
but that college drop one you did was a year ago or whatever, a few months ago.
Yeah.
You only made a certain few way.
Oh yeah,
because it was only like that was only when you're building a brand, pretty much.
Mate, back then I was like, well, even like early this year, I hand make all the garments myself. Man, so it's like I would put the college hoodies up and be like, I'll kind of just see how it goes, and then like have to close the pre-orders in like a few minutes, just because like.
And then you're like, this is gonna take like 6 weeks to hand.
Yeah, it's like I'd get only if like. Compared to other bigger brands, only a few orders, and I had to like close the orders really quickly, and then it takes me a month to make that small amount of orders. But that's how I started.
Yeah, because then pretty much after that, did you stop hand picking, and then you're like, let's look for manufacturers in Australia?
Not even, man. I'm not even at that level. Like,
you're not even just.
I just have some bloke in his garage that helps me out.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and I kind of love that. Like on one of the ads I have coming out, you can see
it. That's like authentic as fuck.
It's not a video of it, but in like the description, it's like I've like dyed in Australia, fabric knitted in Australia, and then it's like manufactured probably by a bloke around the corner. In his garage,
That's
like,
so good.
But I think it fits the brand, man.
Yeah.
Like, and I have no shame being that transparent. That's
Yeah.
a big part of like, you know, if there's stuff you couldn't show on your Instagram, you probably shouldn't be doing
Yeah,
it.
you shouldn't be doing.
You know? And it's like, I try to be authentic. Like, I'm also like, you know, I talk shit to like my customers in the DMs. We have banter. Like, I'm not all fake nice. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like
You're just genuine. Yeah,
yeah,
just
if you're close
nice,
with people,
yeah.
you can hang shit on them,
Yeah.
and like, you know, I try to treat them as equals, like I would a mate, and
Yeah.
I show all that shit. Like yesterday, like I have this thing up of I did a thing of like an ad Brunswick Balboa because
Yeah.
I've been doing all the marathon prep and I have a run like me running in the trackies in a TikTok, and then I put a story up of like my Princess Park lap, and I was like, oh, if anyone can beat this, like I'll give you a free garment.
What time did you do?
I was only like 13, 20
For
minutes.
like, what pace was it?
I don't know. It was 3K, so that would be like 4:20 something.
Oh yeah.
So like I told him, yeah, if
Come on,
anyone that can beat it, and I know I'm not that fast, but I was like, anyone that can beat it, credit to you, I'll give you a free garment. And then like some bloke, but some bloke was being like, what do you say? He was like, oh, if you give me 2 weeks, I'll do it. And I'm like, well, I give you time to train for the fucking Olympics. Yeah. It's like, but like I fuck with that. Like you should have that relationship with your customers, and they can hang shit on me as well. Like I don't give a fuck. It's funny. That's how I build community.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm at the footy,
Well, you're authentic, you know.
yeah, when I'm at the footy club back in the day, it's like, what's this thing about that bloke in the corner that no one's talking to? How can I give him shit but not like offend him too much so I can bring him in and make him feel a part of this, you know?
Yeah.
How can I put my arm around this bloke, you know? Sometimes hanging shit on blokes is the best way to make them feel a part of it.
Because that's pretty much like bloke culture as well. It's like,
exactly. And it can get toxic, but there's a line. And
there's a line.
If you're good at surfing that line,
Yeah.
you'll build the best fucking community.
Yeah, if you're not bagging your mates, so they're your real mates, you know?
Yeah, bro.
That's pretty much the rule. But
that's how you know who your real mates are.
Yeah. Do you want to just like plug your Instagram? That was a real good chat, by the way.
Yeah,
Thanks for the time. I'm super grateful.
Thanks for having me on. It's I love what you're building here, and I'm kind of honoured to be on. It's dope, man.
Thanks for being a part of it,
and
man.
congrats on all the success.
Thank you.
My Instagram, just MilkBar. Really lucky with that.
Yeah.
Just straight MilkBar.
What are the fucking odds of that, man?
Yeah. I got it off some chick. That's another story.
Yeah.
TikTok
Have
as
to
well.
get you back on for that one.
yeah. We'll do a part 2.
And in a year's time, I'll get you back on to sort of see where you're at as well. So
That'd be great, man.
Yeah.
TikTok as well. So not like slowly building that as well. So MilkBar Melbourne on that.
Sweet. So easy. Well, thanks for coming in, man.
No
Appreciate
worries,
it.
bro.